to the researchers who come in. Get it, find it, go in the files, find it, make copies of it, and then refile it. One day somebody came in there and they wanted to know about Mr. Landis. Mr. Landis was the name of the principal of the white school in Delray for years and years ago. And I remember him because a lot of people came in to see or hear about him because he was also a teacher at Peabody University. So she came in and they looked, and so they wanted this information about Mr. Landis, so I got it, and I made them happy and sent them on their way. And putting Mr. Landis' file back in, you know, where it was supposed to be filed, and was under the principals or the schools or whatever. I said, now let me see what they got about Mr. Spady. And I looked. I didn't find nothing.
My goodness.
Mr. Spady was the principal of the colored school. The same time Mr. Landis was principal of the white school. And they got me to thinking, fool. Now the reason they have something about Mr. Landis is somebody wanted it there. They cared about him. Nobody cared about Mr. Spady. Mr. Spady was the principal of Carver School. When I graduated, I remember Mr. Spady ringing the bell. I remember. And God got me to thinking.
Yeah.
And I talked about it to some of my friends. And one of them was Essie Robinson. There's a long story behind her. But I'm just, in short, one of the things that came through her life was her father was Mr. Robinson. They used to have the Red Cross in their home when he was alive, you know, and she was a little girl. And she could remember them bringing material from West Palm Beach, putting them in their house so that people whose houses were not substantial enough to withstand the storm, they were directed to go to the Robinson house. And they had the cots and the blankets and whatever food for the colored people. That's where they went if they didn't have good housing. And we started talking about things like that. She told that. Other people had their own experiences. And they say, you see anything like that in the archives room? No. Nothing like that in there about colored people, period. So by that time, we had started a little meeting. We met, I forget now, whatever days. But they like to eat. So whatever days it was, it stretched out so that they could cook and bring food. And they bring cake. When I looked around, getting fat. But anyway, we collecting this information. So, well, now what we gonna do about it? We know these things are true. And by that time, I had written Dade County for the name of B.F. James. You know, trying to verify some of the things we had found out. And I didn't have to go down there, but that's what we started doing, verifying what information we came up with. But I also befriended someone in Fort Lauderdale, Broward County Historical Society. I didn't have to go down to Miami to get this information about B.F. James. She got it for me. And all I had to do was go to Fort Lauderdale and get it. And started from there. See, I told you, see, we started verifying information we got. You're talking about throwing me in the briar patch. They sure enough did when they had me to come in there and come and aid for the Delray Beach archives. And so, at the same time, Mr. Spady's house was up for demolition.
Oh.
It was an
right.
old house, and he died in 1957?
67, he died.
67, but he left here in 57. He left Delray in 57.
Oh,
At that Mr. Spady, now the principal of the colored school.
right.
Okay, and the house was left, let me back up and say Mr. Spady and Mrs. Spady never had children.
Right.
She lost her health when she was a fairly young woman in her 30s. She had a nervous breakdown or whatever it was, she had to be institutionalized.
Oh, my God.
So anyway, he was left there, and when he left Delray, nobody leave it to the
Oh, my.
He left someone in charge of it, and they had rented it out as a rooming house. And then sometime later, they told me it was a drug rehabilitation center, but the house was abused. So we had that to talk about while we ate chicken and pound cake, what we shouldn't have been doing. We talked about it, you know.
Right.
And the AME church, a church that is still in existence, that was right across the street from the house, was trying to get the house demolished to increase the size of their parking lot. They didn't have enough parking space. What we gonna do about that? Mr. Spady did this for this community. He was the first one to have a telephone. People had to come up to his house to call West Palm Beach to find out about their taxes. And we gonna just let all of his history die? No, we gonna do something about it.
No, that's right.
So then,
Back to the power pastor,
I was the one they sent to the city.
All right.
But while I had all the notes, I had been making the
Yes,
notes, I
that's
started
right,
collecting all
that's
the
right.
information.
That's right.
So you go to the city commissioners and tell them. Well, I did, and eventually we saved the house, and that is the museum today.
That's right, that's right. That's right.
That
That's
is
wonderful.
how that S.E. Spady. Now, most of those people are gone now. Essie Robinson was an older lady when she got started with me, but she gave me all of her father's information, all of the information from him. Not only that, Mr. Robinson again, in 1901, he came to live in Delray. Got the papers there. I could pull them out and show it to you. Essie gave them to me. And it said that, now all of this isn't on it, but she told me that her daddy told her that he told the people who lived in Delray at that time, they got to reopen this school. Okay, what happened is they had a school for black kids there, but then it was during that time Mr. Flagler was coming through with his railroad, bringing the tourists down. So what happened? They had to make the tourists happy. They had to pick the beans. They had to do the this, the that, and help take care of them. They got little or no money. We didn't have any money. When I say we, the bad people who lived there, the black people who lived, we didn't have any money. So they were glad to take those boys out of high school and let them go on the farm and pick beans and make a few change to take care of the house and whatever else to make the tourists happy. So anyway, Mr. Robinson said, we need to have this school open because I'm going to get married and I want to have my children and my children need education. So anyway, he went on and he wrote Booker T. Washington in Tuskegee. And Booker T. referred him to George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver and Mr. Spady had met together. You probably remember the New Farmers of America, all these black organizations they used to have for black kids and all of that.
Right.
That's where they became friends. George Washington Carver told Booker T, won't you send I don't, it wasn't Charles, Mrs., it wasn't by his real name, he had a slang name, I can't remember, maybe it's written down somewhere. Won't you send him down there? So Booker T. Washington referred, Mr. Robinson referred, Mr. Spady to Mr. Robinson. And that's how Mr. Spady got to Delray,
Oh.
to become teacher of the school in Delray.
Okay.
So he had been at Tuskegee.
Huh?
He had been at Tuskegee prior to that.
Mr.
Or-
Yeah, Mr.
yes,
Spady,
okay,
yeah.
yes, okay.
His home was Virginia.
Okay.
I think
yes.
he graduated from a school in Virginia.
Okay.
But he and Mr. Carver, George Washington
Right.
Carver, had